So a while back, I made a video about all my Doosan lathes, but in this video, I'm going to talk about all my Haas mills. Now, over the years, I've owned 12 of them, and we currently have 7 on the shop floor. So why did I sell some? What did I replace them with? And I'm gonna cover each machine currently that we have and talk about, would I buy it again if I knew then what I know now? Let's get started. So we're gonna go from oldest to youngest. So right now, this is my first VF2. It is a 2015 VF2 with a 20 station umbrella tool changer. Now, why would I buy a 20 station? Well, at the time, that's what I knew. I started this company with a Haas mini mill, model year 2000, and it had 10 tools in an umbrella. Then I went to a Super Mini Mill 2 with, again, 10 tools, umbrella. And then I went to a Haas TM3P with 10 tools. So 10 tools and umbrella tool changers is kind of all I knew. Now, back then, Haas only had a 24 tool side mount carousel. So, I mean, I don't remember what it cost, but I just know that back then I couldn't justify spending thousands and thousands of dollars for an extra 4 tools. But if I knew now, if I knew then what I know now, I would have gone even with 24 side mount tools. And the reason is, when you have a side mount tool changer, it completely changes the way you think about tools. Now, one of the phrases we say around here is that the best setup is no setup. What does that mean? It translates into us creating standardized setups with standardized tools that we leave in the machine. So when you have a larger carousel of tools, you can standardize and leave like for example, a lot of these mills nowadays have 30, 50, or even 100 tool changers. And so we'll cut it right down the middle. Half will be for aluminum or non-ferrous, and then the other half will be for ferrous, our steels, our stainlesses, our cast irons, things like that. So then we can standardize, and then we're not taking tools in and out. One of the things that you'll see, I'll save it for later because it's actually right here. I'll explain that in a second. But we kind of standardize our machines, and the best setup being no setup means that we don't change tools out. So for about 10 years straight, this machine has produced our pallets for our PPS, our Pro Pallet System, our MPS, which is our mini pallet system, and we've been able to standardize those setups. Now, in previous videos, we've had this machine set up with a Universal Robots UR10, and it used to be right here. Well, we decommissioned that robot just about a week or two ago because we are moving production of these pallets to an overnight shift on our EC400 horizontal. That's our newest machine, so I'll talk about that at the end. But really, this machine has been a workhorse. It's been really great. We added like a probe after the fact because we wanted to, well, when you have a robot feeding a machine, robots are kind of, they're kind of blind. They don't have much feel. So they would place it in a good enough location, but then our probe would come in and measure the exact XY center of our pallets. And then it would also measure the top. So working from extruded materials, the thickness may vary. There may be sometimes some twist or some cuppage, some bow, some dish, that type of stuff. We needed to machine the 4 contact pads 10 thousandths below the highest spot on the pallet. So we were able to do that in this machine, where this pretty much ran and still does run, although in these few weeks we are just wrapping up this machine by running pallets manually. It's not ideal, but until we get all the fixtures for the EC400 built, we're just gonna do it manually, just power through it. We're actually selling this machine. It's become a non-standard, and we don't have much use for it because it's been, again, a pallet machine. So it does have the old control. I want to say it's like cold fire control. It doesn't have the next gen control. So with the fact that it has the old style software and the 20 station umbrella, it's kind of like this kind of odd fit in the shop. We don't actually need it. So we will be selling this. If you're interested in a well-maintained 2015 VF2, hit us up, email us, questions@PearsonWorkHolding. Let's go to the next machine. Now, this is my 2017 VF4 SS. Now, this machine replaced my, I want to say a 2011 TM3P. TM3P had a 20 by 40 table, which would be equivalent to a VF3. Now, there's kind of a funny saying in the Haas community: friends don't let friends buy VF1s or VF3s, because for just a few $1,000s more, you can get a much larger, it wouldn't be much larger, but it's a larger table, about 10 inches typically, for the same footprint of the machine. So if you can put a VF3 in that spot, you can put a VF4 in the spot and get an extra 10 inches. So this has travels of 20 by 50. This produced our vacuum chucks for many, many years until we moved it over to another machine. We've upgraded this over the years. So one of the big things was this TRT 210 trunnion, which turned this into a 5-axis machine. Now, normally we had vacuum chucks here. Now we've gone with our PPS, or Pro Pallet System. You can see we've palletized a Kurt Weiss here. And then our Max 4 pallet system, it's kind of like the, think of this pallet system as 3-axis. This is for 4-axis and 5-axis. So it's meant to go on like a 4-axis or a 5-axis. So that's kind of what we've done here. So this machine kind of sat dormant. There was weeks where we didn't turn it on because we had offloaded it and we're going, what do we do with this guy? Do we sell it? Well, it's a great machine. The SS model gives you the side mount tool changer. It gives you the faster spindle. It gives you the faster rapids and feed rates. It's been great. I would definitely buy this again. Would I buy a VF2 again? Maybe. It depends on the application. Like the last machine, that was a standardized machine. I would buy that again. Would I buy this again? Yeah, I definitely would. If you're starting a shop, the VF2 is kind of the go-to, but for the maybe call it 30, maybe 20 to $30,000, depending on how you option it up, would you move to a VF4 or a VF4 SS? I definitely would. We love this machine. It's one of our favorites. We would definitely buy it again. Okay, this machine stinks, but it literally smells. So when I talk about standardizing machines, this machine is our cast iron machine. And whenever you cut cast iron, it's pungent. It just has a property when you cut it, and there's like, whether it's interaction with the coolant or just the oxidation process, it smells. I'm actually going to close the doors in a second. But what we have here is a 4th axis. It's a HRC 210. That was a roller cam version. We love these HRCs. They don't make them anymore, so it's unfortunate you can't get these. These days, I recommend for Rotovice users, definitely the 210 size, but the 210, maybe SS, just the rotational speeds, the braking power, it's just a little workhorse. But again, it's kind of like the VF4, just this is a 4-axis instead of a 5-axis. And again, we have our Pro Pallet System with a palletized vise. This machine has 30 tools. It's great. We love it. I would buy this again because it does a standardized process. It cuts cast iron and produces, like for example, this is a cast iron part. This is a jaw carrier that goes into the main body of the Rotovice, and it makes parts beautifully, really accurate. It's not a super speed because when we're making small parts, we don't need like high feed rates. We don't need high spindle speeds because we're cutting cast iron, and you kind of max out around the 6,000 to 8,000 RPM range, at least for like a 1/2-inch tool. So really no need to have high feeds and speeds. We want to make reliable, dependable parts with a proven process. Now, I alluded to standardized tools. I made a video about this, so I'll link it, a card up in the corner, and I'll add a link below. But basically, whenever you have a tool that you know the gauge length, we record that gauge length on these tool tags. So for example, these are random tools that they find their way to the shelf. Again, I've said it so many times, if there's a flat open spot in a shop, humans will fill it with stuff. So this is kind of a catch-all when we've pulled old tools instead of walking back and putting them in our tool crib. They just go here until they stack up. It's fine, whatever. Well, for example, if this tool were going into pocket, well, if we were gonna call this tool 7, we would put this in tool 7, we would pull this card and we would put it into this pocket here, 7, so that it designates what tool is in. When this wears, it comes out. Or if we just need to use it on a different machine, again, we don't really do that. We don't really share tools between machines these days. But in the days when we did, or if you're a job shop, you're always gonna be pulling tools and using them in different machines. Pull it, you've already done the work of finding the gauge length, the diameter, you've checked run out. It gets recorded on these. Now we use a tool presetter. I'll hit that towards the end of the video, but it just adds a way to standardize your tooling between machines instead of taking the slow route and probing each tool using the tool presetter on the table. So if I knew back then what I know now, would I buy this machine? Well, this machine was specifically purchased to produce the Rotovice. So yes, I would buy a standard VF2, not the super speed, definitely this one, 30 tools in the tool changer. Yes, I would buy it again. So behind me is my 2019 Haas UMC 500. Now we put a sticker on it that says 500A. When we have people tour, they're like, oh, there's an A model. No, we just label our machines. Like if it's a VF2, we go VF2A, VF2B, VF2C. I planned on getting another UMC 500, so I just automatically gave this the A designation instead of just leaving it blank. I'll cut to the chase. Would I buy this machine again if I knew then what I know now? Maybe. So we have, I wouldn't call it a love-hate relationship with this machine. It's a love-patience relationship. So we love it for, first of all, the price. I mean, these are hard to beat. For full 5-axis, simultaneous 5-axis, these UMCs are tough to beat. There's just a lot of value. Of course, we're familiar with the Haas control, really easy. The learning curve, like there's a phrase out there, don't fear 5-axis. As far as learning curves, it really wasn't that big of a deal. We're like, oh, okay, it just turns on its side and it rotates. Not a big deal. When it comes to the patience, we realized that we couldn't run the UMC 500 as aggressively as far as depths of cut, specifically radial depths of cut, because there's just a little bit of, I guess you could call it column flex when you're cutting with the Y extended out. It might vary by up to about 2,000ths when you have the column fully extended and you take a cut and you try and cut a 1-inch part. It's probably gonna come out to 1 inch, 2 or 3 thou. If you cut it closer to the back of the machine where there's more stability, it's dead nuts accurate. So, that's why we just need to know that, like, the quirks of this machine and how to machine around them. And that's true of really any machine. Like with this machine, we just need to program, instead of like the 15% radial depth of cut, we're usually around like 8 to 10% max. So we just know the quirks and we program around it. Now, one of the things that we definitely love about this machine is that it came loaded with like a probe, and it came with, well, it didn't come with it, but I ordered it with high pressure coolant. So when we're prototyping, when we are, doing deep holes, this is a machine to go to. We have 2 other machines with high pressure coolant, but this is the machine to go to because there's no real limitations, especially when we're prototyping. When we're done prototyping a new product, we typically have to pull the part off and then rethink like, well, we did drill with like a 570 drill in one shot with high pressure coolant. We'll have to peck drill on some of the other machines. So this is like the dream prototyping machine, because a lot of times if you set up your workpiece correctly and your approach is right, shout out to Rob Lockwood, where he talks about like the framing method, where you start with a piece of material and you cut out, you know, on one side, you come around, you hit it the other side, you can hit all the different sides, and then you just break it out. You can have pretty much finished parts in one operation with these 5-axis machines. So definitely happy that I purchased it. And we love the fact that we can just prototype efficiently on this. But I think if you're looking for a production 5-axis machine, you might consider the next size up, or maybe even a different brand. But for us, we're keeping this machine. We still really love it. So this is my 2020 VF2 SS. Now this was a gutsy purchase because we were right in the middle of COVID when I decided to buy this. I knew that like COVID would eventually go away and there'd be, you know, kind of some scars from it, but I knew, you know, the decisions that I make, I typically run through the filter of, if it's a good decision in 5 to 10 years, it's a good decision today. So, you know, I tend to, well, it's a Warren Buffett quote, be greedy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are greedy. So I tend to think in that way. This machine was heavily discounted just to kind of, like, I'd not talked to Haas about this, but I think it's just to keep, you know, revenue flowing. So I got a great deal on this. I actually made a pretty in-depth video about it that talks about the true cost related to a CNC machine. So it's not just the number on the quote, it's the work holding, it's the tooling. A lot of times it's the rigging. If you're kind of in a more rural part of the country, I've seen riggers absolutely gouge people on delivery day for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. We're about 45 minutes from the Haas factory. So to get this machine delivered and put on my floor, it was about $800 or something. So it was not significant. But going back to it, this was a machine that we've really liked. I'm not really a fan of the SS line, not just because we don't need the speed, but because when you prioritize speed, a lot of times you get hyper obsessed with it and you ignore good processes. So you want to look at total throughput. That's just how we think. So if you're in a job shop situation, from the time that you quote the job to the time that you cash the check, that's the total throughput. And so we focused a lot on our processes up front, all the paperwork, all the receiving of the money. And we don't do job shopping. So for us, it's like, you know, how soon, not how quick, but how soon can we get these components machined and sent to either our anodizer or plater or to our assembly team. So for me, you know, I didn't really look at the VF2 SS line, but this had such a huge discount that it was like, why would I not buy this machine? Now, this machine also made some waves and kind of got guys thinking a little bit differently, because as you can see behind me, we have an HRT 160 and it's hanging. It's literally hanging from a cable in the back corner of the machine. So people are like, what in the world is going on? So here's the deal. Remember how I said the best setup is no setup? Those of you that work with rotary units know that to unplug it and to deactivate it in the control is a somewhat tedious process. Like if you go and you unplug it while it's under power, or if you plug it in, like you've enabled the drive and you plug it in, I've heard that you can do some major damage. So you have to deactivate it in the control, turn off power, remove cables, turn it back on. You don't want to be plugging and unplugging cables with it on, basically. That's the gist of it. So all that stuff, there's a big chance for a defect in the process of removing or installing it. So what we did, we just keep this hooked up all the time, so there's no chance of any, sparks flying. Now we hang it there in place because we have two PPS bases, two Pro Pallet bases, that whenever we need to use a rotary setup, we jog this over into the corner. We have a winch that we drive down, and it's all off the shelf stuff from McMaster-Carr, and we lower the rotary unit, which is permanently bolted to a PPS pallet, onto a PPS base. We lock it in place, we detach the cable, we run that back up, and then our setup is ready to go. It's literally like 3 minutes. So for us, this machine has been a big win. Right now, we're using it for all our second operations since it's literally right across the aisle of our EC400. So in the mornings, we'll come in with a bunch of parts that we need to offload from our previous shift. And by previous shift, I mean like our overnight or lights out runs. And then it goes to here or one of the other adjacent VFs that are next to the EC400. So if I knew now what I knew then, would I buy this machine? Well, we are actually considering selling this one and replacing it with another EC400, just so we get a 1-2 punch overnight lights out shift. Does it still serve a purpose? Yeah, so we're gonna keep it for a while. We're not gonna sell it, but it is gonna be one of the machines that we eventually sell. But I got it for such a great deal. It's like, kind of, why not keep it? Well, an EC400 takes up with a pallet pool takes up about the same space as two VF2s, with literally at least triple, maybe 3.5 times the output when you look at total throughput. So would we buy it again? Maybe. So this machine is my 2022 VM3. Now it's a mold machine. And you'll notice we went from buying mills in 2020 to 2022. So what happened in 2021? Well, a few significant things. First of all, we moved into this current facility, and we bought two Doosan lathes, like high output, multi-axis bar fed lathes. Spent a lot of money that year. So we just didn't feel the need to upgrade our mills. But this machine took a lot of the workload off of our VF4 SS. So what we did is we found ourselves needing to purchase a machine with deeper Y travels. We would get calls saying, I own your 18 by 24 inch vacuum chuck. I've got a 24 inch part that I need to machine. Can you make a 24 inch square custom top plate that with a little bit of overhang? No was the answer, because we couldn't do it on a 20 inch wide travel machine. So this has 26 inches of travel in Y. It's the equivalent to a VF3 YT, which is YT is a designation for Y travel. So why didn't I get that one versus the VM3? Well, price wasn't an issue. They were just within a few $1,000s, if not a few $100s. But this came with a side mount tool changer. It came with a 15,000 RPM spindle. Now, the VF4SS had a 12 thou spindle. When you're making slots that go into our vacuum chucks, it's basically an 1/8 inch wide slot. We literally cut miles of slots every year. Like, I think last year we cut like 7 or 8 miles of slots. So that 3K boost in spindle speed allowed us to just do the same work and finish a little bit sooner. It was saving, maybe like 3 or 4 minutes per cycle, just on spindle speed alone, which allowed us to feed just that much faster. So when you're cutting that many miles of slots, yes, it made sense to go to a 15K spindle. There were some things that we just wanted to try out, like the table mounted air, because it delivers air right to the table with our vacuum power unit that powers our vacuums. That was kind of a nice little thing. One thing that I definitely would not buy again is this crazy grid table. Now, it's great if you're doing mold making, because you may have to clamp on different sides of the workpiece. So a 4, 5, or 6 slot table just may not cut it. But man, it was a chip nightmare. One quick tip is if you're a customer of ours and you've ordered our starter packages where it's if it's a Pro pallet system, one of our vacuum chucks, you'll see these sticks of black foam. Don't throw that away. That can actually be cut up and tucked into these grids or T-slots, in this case, a grid T-slot, and it just works great. It doesn't break down. It's like a polypropylene material, and it makes, blowing chips off this table a breeze. The guys, after running it for a week, they're like, oh my gosh, this is a nightmare. We tucked our packaging foam in it, and it's been absolutely great. Quick side note, we started a second channel called Pearson Plus, and I'll add a link in the description below. We covered this tip of using our packaging material as T-slot covers with my new video guy, Nathan, that gave a great overview. Check that out. So would I buy this machine again? Definitely. I would have bought it again back then. I would buy it now. We love it. We love the travels. We don't miss the rapids going from I want to say it's maybe short of 1,000 inches a minute to about 600, maybe 5. I'll look it up. We'll add it right down here. We don't miss that because we're not doing lots of fast moves. We're doing regular cuts with the high-speed spindle, mostly in the grooves. You just can't feed that fast. So yes, we would definitely buy this machine again. So this machine is my 2022 EC400. It is a horizontal, meaning that the spindle is sideways, and it has a 6-station pallet pool with a total of 7 pallets that can be changed automatically. So this is our new production beast. We set it up during the day, we do production, but then we load it up at night with pretty much like every pallet filled. Well, we keep 1 pallet empty for random things, but we have 6 pallets that are always running our products. Behind me, we have our newest products, or one of our newest products is our horizontal pallet system. And in this case, we have 4 sides of PPS pallets, and they are holding a total of 8 parts, which we're turning into our mini pallet system. So it's Pearson making Pearson. It's kind of like almost self-replicating, so it's fun when I see this. Now, our original setup was we had 2 horizontal pallet systems and then 4 of our Rotovices. Well, when we saw how much density we could get with these HPSs, we thought, let's change it a little bit. So we are actually going to be going to 4 HPSs and 2 Rotovices. I think if we get another horizontal, we'll go with a total of 6 HPSs, so we can just load these up with all of our existing and new fixtures to maximize our high density work holding and just run it like crazy. The brains are on the day shift, the grunt work and the production happens on the night shift. That is the mentality for this machine.
Hey guys, it's Future Jay here. When I was reviewing this footage, I realized that we don't have a plan of what to do with the Rotovices that we are no longer using. So we actually have a total of 4. We have 2 that are coming off of the EC400. We have 1 that is, we kind of stopped using because we put work on the EC400. And then a 4th one that was taken off of a machine that we sold last year. So we have a total of 4 used Rotovices that I'd like to sell to you guys. If you made it to this point in the video, 28 minutes in, you will look for a link in the description below. You'll be able to maybe get one of our used Rotovices. We'll clean them, we'll refurb them. They'll be almost like new. And here's what we'll do: we'll give a 30% discount on those. So look for the link below. It'll take you to a link to the page. And if we sell out, which I think might happen, I'll put an additional coupon code on that page for a new Rotovice at a discount, just as a way to say thank you for watching us.
Now, this machine came pretty loaded. We had high pressure coolant because you never know. We don't want to be limited. We went with a 100 tool side mount carousel in which we split right down the middle, 50 for aluminum, 50 for ferrous materials. We still have not totally filled it up, but we're getting close. The plan, again, is to get rid of maybe one, maybe two VF2s and put another EC400 with a pallet pool. It just makes sense so that we bring that cost of labor down, the existing labor, the brain power goes up. We want humans to be creative and innovative, and we don't want them doing grunt work of just loading a vise or a double vise or some machine like endlessly, mindlessly. We don't want to hire people to do mindless work. That's not where manufacturing is going. So we want to have like the easy automation things, like robots are hard automation. Things like bar-fed lathes are easy automation. Pallet pools are easy automation. It's all in the Haas control. So we have absolutely loved this machine. So I kind of gave it away. Would I buy this machine again? Yes, and I'm going to buy this machine again, probably towards the end of this year after we continue to see our growth rate. And another machine right now, like the scramble that we're doing right now, is to make more and more fixtures. So a lot of our fixtures right now, we only had two of. So when one set of parts is in the machine being machined, the slow part of unloading and loading parts on an identical twin pallet is happening outside the machine. And then keep in mind, this is on a vertical. When the machine stops, then we switch pallets and we minimize that idle spindle time. Horizontals are production beasts because they essentially, they change pallets by themselves. And so not only do we have a 180-degree pallet changing door for these tombstones, but then you kind of have like a built-in fourth axis. You literally have a built-in fourth axis. It's like a giant rotovise. So that's the way that we're going to go as a company, so we can take advantage of those 16 hours of unused spindle time and really ramp it up so that we have 2 mills and 2 lathes running lights out every night, cranking out parts, keeping total cost down. Now, my machinist, Alex, has really run hard with this. He's taken advantage of macros. In fact, Alex is going to be on a Pearson Plus video. Again, that's our second channel. I'll link to that in the description below when it goes live. It's not quite edited, but he's going to show you how he's taken advantage of all the abilities with this machine, especially when it comes to work offsets, because work offsets are kind of universal. You can do a G54 on this. The next pallet that goes in, if you use G54, it's a G54 on that pallet too. The work offsets don't travel with the pallets. They're universal. So Alex has done a great job on using the power of macros to duplicate these things with the subtle changes that happen between individual pallets. Now, one bonus piece of equipment that really we realized we needed was a tool presetter. So we gave it a shot with the Haas HTS 400. When you have this many machines, what we noticed was there is a small chance that you would touch off a tool with a tool presetter on a machine, then you get your gauge length, you go to your other machine, and there may have been a little mismatch. We couldn't quite wrap our minds around why, but it would never exceed a thou. But there was always like just a little bit of just awkwardness. Maybe it was thermal, maybe it was just calibration stuff, but that awkwardness of going, man, I know this should be this length and it's not, what's going on there? So if you notice, we pulled most of the tool presetters off of the machines that have a probing system, and we went with an offline tool presetter. Now, the advantage there is that you have one piece of equipment that gives you consistent gauge lengths. So once you know the gauge length, which is roughly right about here to the tip of that, that gets recorded by this, and then it goes into the Haas control. So one of the other things is when you put a tool in place, you can also check runout. So not only gauge length, but runout. So when you're setting up the tool, you could go, oh wow, it's running out by a thou. Better tap that into place, better check my collet, better clean things out. Gives you really high resolution of that. So this has been like really great as far as a quality improvement, because we don't take the guessing out of, well, it's not so much guessing, it's trial and error. You cut apart, you go, I don't like the chatter on that. Why? Oh, it had a thou of runout. Okay, well, this eliminates that. We know that good tools with known tool diameters and known gauge lengths are going into the machine. The nice thing about it is this will print out stickers that we put on our tool tags. These are off-the-shelf tool tags. And then we upgraded all our machines to use a QR code scanner. So you go up to a machine with a QR code scanner, you scan it, and it scans that into the work offsets. So there's really no chance of fat fingering it and putting in the wrong number or missing a decimal point, which is catastrophic. So as far as total throughput and quality, this has been great. I don't have any baseline for comparing tool presetters, so it's not really an endorsement. I just know that this has taken us to the next level so that we're not over processing or keeping a machine idle doing work because we're touching off tools. The machines are meant to cut chips. This is meant to touch off tools. We split that task between the two technologies. So tool presetters, in my opinion, if you've got multiple machines, is a total win. So would I buy this again? I would definitely buy any tool presetter again. Now, 3 things I want to leave you with. Number 1, if you have a burning question, post it in the comments. Obviously, I covered a lot, but not everything in this video. Number 2, make sure your questions are active rather than passive. By that, I mean, ask questions like, tell me more detail as to why you did this. Don't ask things like, hey, why did you not buy a Makino or a Doosan? Those are endless pits of questions. I call those passive. And number 3, check out the Pearson Plus second channel that we just launched. There is so much value loaded in that, and it's value from the perspective of my employees. They're the ones with the brains that have cooked up so many improvements using the lean principles that we put into place. So I'll leave descriptions for that, all the videos I've talked about in the description below. So until next time, go innovate your production.